How would a government comprised of two different species symbolize power or leadership? If one species is bat-like, it will hang upside down. If it wears a crown, the crown needs to be attached to its head. If the other species is cat-like, it will probably communicate much of its intent through its tail. It's time for Aaron Does It Wrong in support of Casey Hudson and WorldWorkings.com. I'm starting this build with a Pentaparty cat species, and I'll use this fashionable old wingtip shoe. I think broguing will add a nice decorative touch to the final build. I'll remove the sole of the shoe, and then remove the wingtips with a hobby knife and some good old-fashioned ripping it apart. And then the shoe should just fall apart. I like the toe portion of this shoe, but I want to make a tube to wrap around the tail, so I'll cut the toe off. I want to make 3 segmented sections that will allow the tail to move while the leader is wearing this, so I'll mark where I want to cut, and then remove the first piece, the second, and when I sew this together it will fit over the tail, and finally the third. I'll trim these so that they sew together into a tube. I want to use these brogued pieces to attach my segments. These pieces don't necessarily have holes where I want, and since I think using a leather punch would be too much work, I'll drill some holes using my driver. Then I can sew this together. This gives us an action montage of Aaron sewing. I'm using a red thread because I want the stitching to stand out and to be decorative. Here's the first sectional piece. I'll continue to add my segments onto this broguing until they are attached, the second, and the third. Then I can sew this broguing together into a tube, continuing to use the red thread to make it decorative, sewing pretty far down the edge to turn this into a seam. This fits over the top of the tail thus. Since this comes in segments, the cat can still communicate using their tail. They're still a bit missing on the bottom, so I'll use these brogue pieces from the heel, cutting them from the rest of the leather. Then, there's another action sequence of Aaron sewing. I'll sew this S piece onto the bottom of the tail cover. With that done, I can start on the bat-like Tadara bray. This will be a crown made using an old guitar string. I want this to be able to wrap around its head, so I'll bend the guitar string with my Leatherman into the shape I need it to be. This will wrap under the sensory horns and over the top of the head. I hope the superglue is strong enough to hold this together. I need to decorate this crown, so I'll start by taking the thrusters from this transforming robot toy. But I need more decorations as well, so I'll sort through one of my tubs full of old bits. I think these electronic parts will do nicely. I'll also use some laser cut wooden dots from a previously used wood puzzle. I'm happy with what I found, so I can brush these aside. I can start gluing the various bits onto the leadership crown, including these electronic bits onto the backside. This still isn't enough elaboration on the crown, and I'm not sure what else to use, but maybe some wire cut into a wing-like shape will give some additional heft to this crown. I'll attach it to the thruster pieces, filling in the gaps with this wooden slug, and attach it to the electronic pieces. Once this is primed, I can give it a white base coat and move back to the tail cover. I'll start by painting a pink between the decorations, following the decorations to make a pattern. I think that any place there is some broguing, that's a good place for some paint. Then I'll switch to a lighter pink to add some additional decorations. As well, following the broguing to add some color. These symbols probably mean something in Pentaparty culture. You should comment and ask Casey what they all mean. Finally, some yellow paint will add a little more pop to the entire garment. Still, just following the broguing. While this dries, I can move back to the Tadara bray crown. This will also be pink and yellow, not because I'm lazy and already have these colors out, but because of the deep cultural significance. Once again, comment and ask Casey what they mean. These little wing wires will be wet brushed with a mix of both colors because I think it looks nice. The guitar strings are painted with the metallic watercolors and then sealed with a gloss finish. The final touches will be 2 decorative pieces that are carved from the most precious stone on the planet, If I know my sci-fi, this gem is called unobtainium. These are symbolic to Tenebrae, symbolizing the sensory horns that protrude from their heads. And here's a forced perspective shot of the two planetary rulers together. And with that, I can present Pentaparty and Tenebrae leaders wearing the symbolic leadership mantles of their two peoples. Thank you to Casey's patrons, and thank you for watching. There are many ways to support Casey. You can do so by liking or commenting on this video, subscribing to her channel, or by finding her Worldworkings Patreon. Thank you for watching. This has been Aaron Does It Wrong.